Peace, 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 peace. I am live with the one, the only Sayyid Al Mahdi. He is making his return to the Solar Business Debate League, and he got some information that he want to drop pertaining to the true identity of the Arab. So, when you come in the building, hit the like button, hit the like button. When you come in the building, family, this should be a good one. Sayyid Al Mahdi, what's good, family?
Yo, what it do, man? Peace and blessings to Solar Vision Debate League. Peace to the members of the Debate League. You know what I'm saying? I'm very honored to be back on the show and just to be able to share some information with the family. You know what I'm saying? Give thanks and praises to His Most Imperial Majesty, Jah Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Give the thanks. How you?
Alright. So, just to let you guys know, we will be having a very powerful debate later on. It will be between Minister Howe and Domo. Should religion play a role in black politics? So that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we may be able to squeeze something in between there. We may. I got some information coming from Sheikah that she wanted to kind of present. So I'm going to just see what's up with that. So if that is going to be, it may be maybe around 6-ish. So I'll keep you posted on that. But right now, we got the one, the only Sayyid Al Mahdi in the building. And I'm going to give the floor to him so he can drop his information.
Alhamdulillah, man. I appreciate you, Solar. Again, peace and blessings to all those on the Solar Debate League. You know what I mean? I see some new faces. I see some old school faces. Shout out to Rob Brack, the king of the Debate League right now. He's holding the throne. I see some new bodies. You know what I mean? Y'all definitely making the league look very good. I'm really consul. I've checked out some of your work, and I think it's very powerful, brother. And the Israelites always got love for my family and my bloodline, but we got to give praises, you know what I'm saying, to the Most High for allowing Solar to come up with a vision. And so hopefully, you know what I'm saying, with the Lord's help, we can all be able to come together and make change. So with that being said, I wanted to present some information to the family. This is called the True Arab Depiction. And I really found that the true Arabian depiction is not being taught to our people, the conscious community, considering that we are so conscious about a lot of things. But when it comes to the description of the Arabs and Islam and how we see the religion, this information is very hidden. And so I hope with the Lord's help, I can be able to bring out the true depiction of the Arabs so that we can be able to reform ourselves on how we see Islam, the religion, its relationship with African people on the continent, its relationship to slavery and African American people, particularly the children of Israel. So without further ado, I present to you the Arab depiction. So there's some objectives that I seek to accomplish during this particular dissertation. The first objective, I want to eradicate white supremacy completely. The second objective will be to reform the minds. And the third will be a closure. So this first objective we shall get to, eradicating the white supremacy. First thing we will do, we'll get into a hadith because I do like to keep things spiritual. I don't like to be too worldly with my information. I like to keep everything balanced. So we'll start off with a hadith with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the authority of Abdullah ibn Buraida from his father, as related in Imam Ahmed's book, the Musnad. This is a very sound collection of hadith. Many Sunni Muslims testified to this man, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, also the Sufis and the Shiites. So I'm pretty sure you guys will know and how to find this particular hadith, where the Prophet said, "Verily, my ummah will be given over 3 times to a people with broad faces and the smallest of eyes, whose faces will be as though the skin peeled off, until they overtake the Arabian Peninsula." What must be understood about this hadith, O people, is that the Prophet is speaking in the flesh as he's living to his companions, saying that his nation will be given over 3 times to a people with broad faces and small eyes. So he's saying this during a time where, you know, broad faces and small eyes is not a common thing. Peeled skin faced men are not common And he's saying this to his nation, that his nation will be taken over 3 times by these kind of people, eradicating the white supremacist depiction of the true Arab. So, since we know the true depiction of the enslavers, what was the true Arab depiction during the time of the Holy Prophet? Like I said in the previous tradition of the prophet, he's given a prophecy saying that his nation will be overcome by a group of people who look a certain way: peeled skin, broad faces, and small eyes. So we got an idea of how they're gonna look in the future, right? So if we got an idea of how they look in the future, then how did the Arabs look at that time during the time of the prophet? Let's continue. The predominant complexion of the Arab is dark brown skin, and that of the non-Arab is white. This is Ibn Mandur in the 14th century, right? We know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was alive in the 7th century AD. So we're talking about 700 years later, a man by the name of Ibn Mandur makes a statement in his book Lisan al-Arab that the predominant complexion of the Arabs is dark brown, and the complexion of the non-Arabs is white. So you see, right from the jump, we can go right to Ibn Mandur and see 700 years later, this is how the Arabs were known to be. This is the depiction. We go down to Al-Jahiz. This is a 9th century Islamic scholar. Now, this is 200 years after the Prophet died. He's of the same opinion of Ibn Mandur. He says, there are black tribes among the Arabs, such as the Banu Sulaim ibn Mansur, and all the people settling in the Hara, besides Banu Sulaim, are black. So he's saying that all the tribes around Banu Sulaim in the Hara, if you look at this picture in the middle, right here, is right next to Mecca. And you see the proximity of this city Hara to the Red Sea and its proximity to Ethiopia right across. You see how close they are? And even if you look at the topography, if you know anything about topography, we see the land, the coloration of these lands. You see it looks like a light brownish complexion. This is actually arid desert, right? So you look on the east side of the Red Sea, you see in Hara, it's the same type of topography as the topography on the left side of the Red Sea. It's the same topography. So we're looking at a climate, an area that the Arabs dwelt, these black people dwelt in the same type of climate that those dark-skinned Nubian Hamitic tribes right across the Red Sea dwelt in. So we're looking at neighbors here, okay? So to even conceive an idea that those people that you see in Arabia today were white skinned, and to have that in your mind is truly a sign of being affected by white supremacy. Now we're going to talk about the Bagada Arabs. The Bagada Arabs, known as Shua Arabs, commonly known as the Bagada, meaning cow, refers to Arab tribes in West Africa as cattle herders. They are spread from Lake Chad to the Nile River in the countries of Sudan, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Nigeria, and the Central African Republic. We're looking at Arabs here, okay? The Shua Arabs, they saw themselves as Arabs. This is a group of black, Numidic, brownish people who are populating the western side of Africa. They live in a hot semi-arid climate with zones ranging from sparse shrubs to wooded grasslands. They entered Western Sudan between the 12th and 13th centuries and gradually moved east and west from there. Now the source is the joshuaproject.net. I want to take a look at these pictures here, right? So you look at the farthest right picture of the bottom right, you see the city of Harar, Mecca. And you see its close proximity to the Red Sea, as well as Ethiopia to the left side of the Red Sea, the Red Seas. And then you look at the picture above, looking at the Sahara Desert. Again, when you look at the topography, you see this light brown complexion color, depicting the climate and the area of these dwellers here. The same people on the left side of the Red Sea were in the same climate that the people on the right side of the Red Sea were in. So it's not like they were in a new strange land. These people were traveling across the Red Sea for centuries. We're talking about the original Arabs here, the true Arab depiction, my people. We got to really start seeing history for what it is. This is a Shua Arab here in the middle. This is taken, I believe, in the 17th century or the 18th century. Looking at his turban, looking how it's wrapped underneath his chin. This is nothing like the people of Arabia today. You don't see that kind of turban wrap. This is unique. This is very distinguishable. We move on to the Taishi tribe. Taishi is one of the Bagara tribes, right? So this is a family sect of the Bagara. The Bagara is really an ethnonym. It's really a cognomen. It's like saying African, right? You say African, you're just grouping up a bunch of tribes under one nationality just to try to make it simplified for other nations. It's no different from saying more African American, right? Because really, we're a bunch of tribes that form confederations. When you form a confederation, you come underneath a certain title. We, the Muslim nation, we come under the term or title Muslim. The Muslim name is what unifies the nationalities, right? You have so many tribes under one banner. So what name are we going to call ourselves? We call ourselves the Muslim nation. So this is no different than what the Bagada Arabs did, right? The Taishi tribe is nothing but a clan of the confederation of the Bagada. These nomads originated from the Guhena group, a clan of nomadic Arabs who came across the Sinai Peninsula. So now we know they came across that Red Sea. They are traveling across that Red Sea into the mainland Africa, dwelling amongst the Hamitic tribes. From Arabia, they eventually moved into the Nile region of Upper Egypt and then into Sudan around 1504. They settled in the area of southern Darfur and they called the land Dar el Taishi. Their main city is Rahad al-Burdi. The Taishi participated with the rest of Western Sudan tribes in the Mahdiya revolt in 1882 against Turco-Egyptian occupation of Sudan. This is in Wikipedia. This is some basic stuff right here. I'm coming at you with some basic hits. The Taishi tribe is a subclan of the Bagada Arabs, African, black. Let's remember what Al Jahis and Ibn Mandur talked about the Arabs. We're talking about 14th century and 9th century scholars of Islam describing the Arab depiction. I'm giving you facts now about these Arabs or these black people who identify themselves as Shua Bagada Arabs who are dwelling in Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad and Sudan. They live in all up in the mainland, like all up in there. So we really got to understand when we talk about Islam and we talk about Arab and the slave trade and things like that, like you can't forget this history. We can't. Eradicating white supremacy. Did you think the Hamitic black Africans couldn't distinguish peeled skin from dark brown skin? Now, according to the sources that I cited, these black people, these dark brown Arabs, crossed the Red Sea into what we know as Eastern Africa, the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia, and they started to spread out. Do you think that those Hamitic people didn't know what an Arab was between a white man? Perhaps you thought that the Arabs just started dwelling amongst those Hamitic tribes in the 13th century, 15th century. Perhaps you think that this is when they started coming into Africa. Perhaps this is what you really think. Let's continue. So I'm gonna give you guys some signs here, right? Some signs, some dates, some geography, and some personalities. So in order to give you the first sign, I'm gonna give you a verse from the Holy Quran, because the Quran is the guidance for all mankind. Surah Saba, verse number 34, the Lord says, "There indeed is a sign for Sheba, and their dwelling place 2 gardens, on the right hand and the left." So we can turn our attention to this picture right here in the middle, and this is the kingdom of Sheba, right? And you see, as the verse describes, 2 gardens on the right and in the left, because the throne of Sheba was Marib in Yemen, as what we know as Yemen today, Saudi Arabia or Arabia, the peninsula. And on the left side, you see the expansion of the kingdom in Ethiopia, modern ancient Kush, right? We're looking at a kingdom that sat in Arabia and extended over to Africa. the Sabians or Sabines are an ancient people of South Arabia. These are Arabs. They speak the Sabian language, one of the old South Arabian languages. They founded the kingdom of Saba, the biblical land of Sheba, and the oldest and most important of the South Arabian kingdoms. This is Wikipedia. I'm coming with the basics facts. It ain't too complicated. It's just like we just not trying to be open to the information because we've already been affected by white supremacy. But I'm here to eradicate it. Now, Kenneth Kitchen dates the kingdom between 1200 BC and 275 CE, with its capital at Marib. This is Yemen. On the other hand, Israel Finkelstein and Neil Asher Cyberman write that the Sabian kingdom began to flourish only from the 8th century BC onward, and that the story of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba is an anachronistic 7th century piece. See, for me, all I need is, when it comes to history, you need to be there and write it down in order to really get an accurate date. When it comes to history, you're only looking for a roundabout. So Kenneth says 1200 BCE, and Finkelstein and Neil say 8th century BCE. But what we need to just understand is that these time periods, if we was to consider both, we would know that this is about 1,000 to 2,000 years before Muhammad's birth. And we're talking about a kingdom that stretched from Arabia to Africa. These were Arabians who were ruling over Hamitic people, the kingdom of Sheba. This is the sign from God. See, God is trying to get y'all to see this relationship between the Hamitic people and the Shemitic people, how they've always been in contact with each other. They've always been in relationship with each other. They've always known each other. They know how each other looks. It didn't just start in the 13th century with the Baghdad Arabs. They was already over there, communicating, ruling them, establishing laws, trade. You see this arrow right here from Marib to Israel, because this was the ancient spice route. Right here is where all the spices came from the Indian Ocean down the Gulf of Aden, up the Red Sea, right there into Egypt. This is how we traded with them Europeans. We controlled that, the Arabs, in the ancient days. The Queen of Sheba, she's the sign, she's the personality. Let's talk about it. Known in Arabic as Queen Bilqis, Allah says in chapter 27, Al-Nemo, verse number 23, I found there a woman ruling them, and she's been given all things and attains a glorious throne. This is Allah describing this Queen of Sheba. 1200 BCE or the 8th century BCE. This is the time period we're in. We're in these days now, where an Arabian queen named Bilqis, everybody knows Queen Makeda, Queen of Sheba, is black. I mean, like, this is basic information. Like, even Christians who don't really be into the conscious knowledge, like we be into the conscious knowledge, know that the Queen of Sheba was black. But she was from Arabia. She was an Arabian queen. The Queen of Sheba said, this is we're continuing in the Quran, An-Naml verses 29 to 31. The Queen of Sheba said, when she received the letter from King Solomon, O chief, lo, there's been thrown into me a noble letter. Lo, it is from King Solomon, and lo, it reads, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, exalt not yourself against me, but come unto me as those who surrender. So King Solomon wrote her a letter basically telling her to give up the throne and get down with the Israelite doctrine, That's basically what he was doing. And so the story continues. She eventually communicated with Solomon, and then, as the story goes, she went and visited King Solomon, and she seen his wonders and his wisdom, and she fell in love with that, right? So in verse number 44, she ends up testifying, my Lord, indeed I wrong myself, and I submit with Solomon to Allah, Lord of the worlds, right? So she ends up surrendering to King Solomon's divine wisdom. The man was so divine in his wisdom, he was able to get a woman who controlled that much land. I showed you in the previous slide, the kingdom of Sheba. That's how much he controlled. And Solomon got all that. This is his now. It's his now. This is his kingdom now. This is a part of the Israelite expansion. So she surrendered to him. That means also, he got the booty. He got that booty, and they established a royal bloodline. I'll go into that a little bit further. According to the scholar Al Hamdani, the Queen of Sheba was the daughter of Isra Yahrib, the Himyarite king of Najran. Himyarite. The Himyarites are the sons of Qattan, the original progenitor of Arabs, the son of Joktan, son of Shem. We talking about Shemites here. This woman, the Queen of Sheba, is a pure Arab, black. And King Solomon got up in there with an Arab woman. So when we talk about the true depiction of the Arabs, my family, my people, we got to know we talking about pure Negroid features, dark skin. We talking about the true blackity black, don't talk back type of color. And we got to really testify to the truth today. We're going to testify and we're going to bring you the truth as we do it here on the Solar Vision Debate League with the RGY movement. Here we go. Now we're going to talk about this royal bloodline. All right. Since the union of King Solomon and Makeda, the kingdom took on many names, but never forsook the aristocracy of their sovereign rule. So when King Solomon married Queen Makeda, they of course established a bloodline, right? Menelik I was the first emperor of Ethiopia and of Hebrew descent, ruling in the 10th century BC. He established the inaugural Solomonic dynasty. Now, what's unique about this is those two scholars that I had cited about the Queen of Sheba, when one said perhaps 1,200 BCE and the other said 8th century BCE. But you see this King Menelik, who established the dynasty of Solomon in the 10th century, that fits right into the narrative, right there in the middle. Because now the dates are somewhere in between 1,200 BCE and 8th century, and Solomonic dynasties were established in the 10th century with Menelik. That makes sense. You see, the dates are harmonizing. They're very complementary towards each other. So this was known as the Aksum Kingdom, the Kingdom of Aksum, right? The Aksumite emperors were powerful sovereigns, styling themselves King of Kings, King of Aksum, Himyar, Radon, Saba, Salhin, Sayamo, Beja, and of Kush. You know, you hear a lot of the Rastafarians when they say Jah, about, Haile Selassie, or they start saying King of Kings and Lord of Lords. These are titles that they used because these are the titles that came from Solomon. These are the type of traditions that were established with this king of Israel. King Menelik reigned 614. This is King Najashi, right? Look at this picture on the right. You see the kingdom of Aksum is almost like the same land or the same amount of space that the Queen of Sheba sat on. But I'm just showing you how the name. Once Solomon married Queen of Sheba, the name took on the kingdom took on a different name. You know what I mean? It became the Solomon, the Solomon Kingdom, or it was a Kingdom of Aksum, as some historians say, or it could be the Himyarite Kingdom or the Israelite expansion. We know that the name took on different names, and so by the time Muhammad came on the scene, there was a king by the name Al Najashi, in 614 to 631, known in some Muslim sources, was a king of the Kingdom of Aksum. But this is the same king who comes from the lineage of Menelik. Menelik is the son of Solomon and Sheba. So we're looking at the royal bloodline being established from the BC time all the way up to the time of Muhammad. This is why Muhammad sent the followers to Ethiopia, because he knows about the Solomonic dynasty. He knew that king in Ethiopia was of the royal bloodline. He knew that. And that's why he sent his followers over there to get that protection, and sure they get that. They sure did get that protection too. All right. It's been suggested that it was either he or more probably his father who gave shelter to the Muslim immigrants around 615 to 616 AD at Aksum. So we're talking about an Arabian queen who married an Israelite king and established a kingdom that lasted for over 1,000 years, all the way up to the time of Muhammad. Give thanks and praises to his imperial majesty. When we're talking about the true depiction of the Arabs, there is Haile Selassie, blood of Israel with the blood of an Arab. That's what you're looking at when you're looking at that picture of Haley. Hiya. Now we're gonna go into some Arabian semantics. Okay, we're gonna get into the language now, because you see a lot of people who bang on Islam and talk about how the Arabs are white and slavery and how they got this kind of like disgusting type of condemnation against Islam. They always try to recite hadiths regarding Muhammad's complexion. So they'll say a hadith like this, right? On the authority of Anas ibn Malik in Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 3, Hadith 63, they'll come up with a hadith like, while we were sitting with the Prophet in the mosque, a man came riding on a camel. He made his camel kneel down in the mosque, tied its foreleg, and then said, "Who amongst you is Muhammad?" At that time, the Prophet was sitting amongst us, his companions, leaning on his arm. We replied, "This white man," reaching on his arm. Now, you see, a lot of people who don't study Arabic language and then they don't understand nothing about Arabian semantics, they'll say, "See, he's a white man." That's the proof that he's a white man, because it says it right there in the Arabic. It says it right there in the translation. He's a white man. But don't understand anything about the semantics of Arabian speech. So this word white, abyad, we're going to go into it right now. It is often mistakenly believed that the term abyad was used for people commonly called white today in the West. But in reality, white or abyad in the Arabic color paradigm was and is commonly used for people of black color who exuberated a shining or bright skin complexion. Okay, so this terminology, abyad, white, was commonly used for black people. And it was only used for the type of black people with that illuminating skin, that Nubian skin, that that type of skin you stand in the sun and there's like a bright light glowing on your face. You ever seen somebody so dark? You can see him right there in Mississippi, somewhere in South Carolina. I tell you, somewhere in Virginia. I say he's somebody in Virginia, probably in Maryland. I pray he probably in Philly. There's somebody so dark that when he stands in the sun, his skin is glowing. Michael Jordan dark, See Michael Jordan when he's sweating on the basketball court. You see the light hit his black face, little bald black head. You see how that thing glow? That's abyad. That's when we talking about abyad, y'all. That's what Muhammad was. Okay. So I took the definition from an Arabic dictionary. Here it is on the right. It means blank, empty, unmarked, or like a blemish, like blemish free, clear, crystal. Bright, brilliant, clear, luminous, shining, shiny, shine, dazzling, whitish. Okay. But from the Arabian semantics in the Arabian paradigm, it was used to describe the illuminance of a black man's face. So I put this picture of zinc in the middle because zinc is going to give you a great depiction of what abyad is. You see how this zinc is black? But then it got this like crystal glow. That's like a black Nubian face when it's being hit by the sun. That's abyad. So when y'all read the hadiths and they say Muhammad was white, you got to understand the Arabian semantics, my people. You got to understand how they spoke back then. It's like when brothers say, "Damn, she fat." But you say that to somebody who just came over here from Ethiopia or China and they say fat. She ain't even, but the woman who he's saying that about in front of the Chinese man is not fat, F-A-T. She's pretty hot and tempting according to the Ebonics and the semantics of African-American Ebonics slang, because that's how we talk amongst each other, amongst our tribesmen. This is how the Arabs were. They had their own slang, their own semantics, and we got to understand the culture if we want to really understand Islam and Arabian history, the true Arabian depiction. Let's continue. The term white in the original Arab context expressed luminosity or brightness of tone. Ibn Mandur, in his book Lisan al-Arab on page 22, he said, the Arabs don't say a man is white, Raju Abyad, due to a white complexion. Rather, whiteness Abyad with them means an extended appearance that is free of blemish. This is the definition on the right. Blank, empty, unmarked. This is exactly what Ibn Mandur said. It represents an external appearance that is free of blemish, no acne. You ain't got no spots on your face. You just like your face is glowing. This is a beautiful black. This is like a crystal glow black. This is a polishing black, like as if the brother put baby oil on his face. This is a beautiful black, y'all. You see, if you just look at the definition without a type of understanding of the semantics of the Arabian language, then you're gonna say white. It's like a white man, because it says white. So we always got to understand the semantics of people's language if we want to understand the language of the people. You see, this is true Arabian depiction, oh people. So now we're moving to the second objective, the Reformation period. Why isn't this information presented in Islamic mainstreams? Look at that white man over there with his skin peeling. You see that? Look at him in the sun and his skin peeling like that. That's white folks. I mean, just think about the logic, right? In Persia, in India, in Pakistan, and Iraq, those people, you see them people how Persian, you see how Indians look. They dark. The brother from the Simpsons, right? The little brother Abu. That's a Persian. That's a Indian dude. Look at how dark he is, Abu, in the Simpsons. So we talking about from the land of Iraq, skip over Arabia, and we go to the land of Sudan. These are dark people like Abiyad. And then you just gonna skip over Arabia and really conclude that those are the real Arabs that you see today in Saudi Arabia. Like logic should tell you right there, like that's impossible. How the hell did the white folks stay in Arabia that many years and look like like that? Like when they get in the sun, that's what happened to them. That's what happens to them when they get in the sun. How you expect them to live in some desert and not be looking like that? See, logic alone should tell you that the Arabs is black, but I don't know. It's like white supremacy. So we're going to talk about the Fatima Caliphate. Okay. Why is the information I just showed you in eradicating white supremacy not mainstream? I'm telling you why right now. The Fatima Caliphate was an Ismaili Shiite caliphate that spanned a large area of North Africa, from the Red Sea in the east to the Atlantic Ocean in the west. The dynasty of Arabian origin ruled across the Mediterranean coast of Africa and ultimately made Egypt the center of the caliphate. At its height, the caliphate included, in addition to Egypt, varying areas of Maghreb, Sudan, Sicily, the Levant, and Hijaz. So we're looking at an Islamic kingdom that was basically the headquarters was in Egypt. All right. And it stretched from the Red Sea. They had controlled the Hijaz, meaning they controlled Mecca. They got Levant, they got Palestine, and they got the Maghreb. They all the way in Morocco. The Fatimids claimed descent from Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad. These are pure Arabs. These are the Fatima kings were all descendants of Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad. And we know the Prophet Muhammad was Abiyad. He was a black man. Okay. The Fatima state took shape among the Kutuma Berbers located in the west of North Africa, Algeria. In 909, conquering Raqqada, the Aghlabid capital. In 921, the Fatimas established the Tunisian city of Mahdiya as their new capital. In 948, they shifted their capital to Al-Mansuria, near Cairo in Tunisia. In 969, they conquered Egypt and established Cairo as the capital of the caliphate. Egypt became the political, cultural, and religious center of the empire that developed a new indigenous Arabic culture. We're talking about 200 years after the Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad died, right, in the 8th century, or we could say the late 6th, 7th century. And in 909, you got the Fatimas, the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, in Egypt with a kingdom, an Islamic kingdom. All right. Now we know the Moors conquered Spain in 700 AD. So before the Fatimas, you had the Umayyads. Umayyads was already They was already in North Africa. They was already there. They was already in Egypt. They already passed by there. You see, there's a whole nother segment that could be discussed with regards to the secularism in Islam and how extreme war between the Muslims sects. So the Umayyads had came in 700 AD and already had conquered North Africa, and they was already in Spain by 711. You see, but the Fatimas was right behind them in Egypt. And I wanted to make sure that I emphasized the Fatima Caliphate because of its closeness to the Prophet's bloodline, the Abiyah black man. Okay. During the late 11th and 12th centuries, the Fatima Caliphate declined rapidly, and in 1171, Salahuddin invaded its territory. He founded the Ayyubid dynasty. Now, a lot of mainstream Muslims know about Salahuddin because they say he's the great conqueror of Jerusalem when it was under occupation of the Romans. He liberated the Holy Land. That's Salahuddin the Great, the warrior of Islam. But the true depiction of the Arab is being swept under the rug when they talk about Salahuddin, because Salahuddin is not an Arab. He is a Turkish Khazarian white man. So he came and he destroyed the Fatima dynasty, the descendants of Muhammad, the black Arabs. He came and destroyed them in the 12th century AD. So we're looking at a rule of black Arabs, just like it was during the time of Queen of Sheba, right? Because I know some of y'all may be like, oh, you see the Arabs is conquering all the Hamites and beating up on the Africans and killing the Africans and enslaving them. But I mean, like, let's check this out. The Queen of Sheba, it was going down too. I mean, the Africans have been fighting each other for generations after generations. This is a big old family war over the resources, over who's going to be in charge of the political, the cultural, and the social order. This has always been something that mankind been bickering about. Right now in the ghetto, you see brothers fighting over street corners and where they're going to sell and move their product. But these are the people of the same bloodline. So we can't sit here and act like, there's no political interest when you're trying to move a certain way in society and certain people don't agree with those ways. Like it could be your family. Sometimes you gotta, stick to the objectives. So what I'm trying to get y'all to see is Arabs are black, and yes, they was in Africa interacting with the Hamitic tribes. Some of them they formed confederations with, and some of them they did not. But this is natural. This is no different than the Native Americans and before the white man came. The Alaquan Indians wasn't so cool with the Chickasaw. So we can't act like all the Native American Indians over here was all Confederate with harmony, peace, and kumbaya. It wasn't no different in Africa and no different in Europe. We've been banging on each other since the beginning of time. Cain killed Abel, point blank, period. The Ayyubid Caliphate. Now we just look at this picture to the right, and you look at the color purple, how you see how he conquered all these lands. Like these lands was already in the hands of Muslims, black Arabs. But we're looking at the 12th century. This European Salahuddin, this supposed great man, reconquered the black Arab territories. He even stretched all the way down the Red Sea to Yemen. He's in the heart of blackness. He's breached the headquarters of black power. That's what he did. This man literally reconquered all of the black lands in the hands of Arabs and Europeanized it with Turkish blood. So let's read a little bit about his caliphate. A Sunni Muslim dynasty of Kurdish origins. The Kurdish people. These are Europeans. Founded by Salahuddin and centered in Egypt. The dynasty ruled large parts of the Middle East during the 12th and 13th centuries. Salahuddin rose to vizier of Fatima, Egypt in 1169 before the abolishing of the Fatima Caliphate in 1171. So this is the reason why you study history, because it's obvious that the Fatimas had used him as a governor over some of the lands, and I'm only suspecting that he was a governor of his land because a lot of traditional conquerors, what they do is they got something called indirect rule. So if you are European and you conquer black people, you don't put a white person over the countrymen because it's going to be obvious that you've been subjected by white supremacy. So what they do is they use puppets, fake leaders who are really for the people, but they really for the interests of the colonizer. So, maybe Salahuddin was nothing more than, one of those type of positions. He was probably set over his people as a governor because he was a representative of his people, being that he was a white man. And the Fatima Caliphate controlled the Levant. That's Anatolia, Antioch, that's Turkey. So black Arabs was in the house. And from what I'm seeing with history, when Salahuddin conquered the Fatima dynasty, you know, and we got to understand, like Egypt is the cradle of like political influence. That's like America. Egypt is like America. America controls the political influence in the whole entire world. If it don't start with America, it's not going anywhere. You look at Egypt, it's like in between the Red Sea, the Mediterranean right here. You got access to the trade route coming from Yemen. That's the spice route. You got all that in control. So when you got Egypt, you got like everything to the west and everything to the east is in your hands when it comes to politics. Like you control so much in terms of political influence. So when you get Egypt, it's like you just got the whole world in your hands. So when he got the throne of the Fatima in Egypt, he was now setting the tone for white supremacy right at that moment for Turkish wannabe Muslims. We got to remember the Moors, or the so-called Moors, the Umayyad Caliphate conquered his people in 700. Right after the prophet died, there was already a campaign to the northward. So these Europeans are they just want to get revenge. They taking Islam and now they just coming back for like a conquest. 3 years later, he was proclaimed sultan following the death of his former master, the Zingrid ruler Nur al-Din. Now, Zingrid is a tribe of the Turks. Nur al-Din is a Turkish man. This was his master. Salahuddin's master was a white man. For the next decade, the Ayyubids launched conquest throughout the region, and by 1183, their domains encompassed Egypt, Syria, Upper Mesopotamia, the Hijaz, Yemen, and North Africa, coast up to the borders of modern-day Tunisia. Most of the Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, fell to Salahuddin after his victory at the Battle of Hattin. Now, remember the prophecy in the beginning. He said, "Verily, my ummah will be conquered 3 times by people with broad faces and small eyes, with peeled skin." We know that these are the European Turks. This is already happening in the 12th century. It's happening now. This is the Ayyubid Caliphate. It's starting to have. Look at this picture. He already got Yemen. He got the whole Hijaz, the whole strip of the Red Sea. He got all of that. That's Mecca. That's Saudi. That's Mecca. That's Medina. He got the lands of the knowledge. This is the Egypt, Medina, and Iraq during these days were the 3 cities where all Islamic knowledge was propagated. If you wanted to learn Islam, you went to Medina, Egypt, or you went to Iraq. Those are the 3 cities of knowledge during these days. And this white man is in control of all of that now. Can we talk about the dawah, the preaching of Islam? What are they preaching now? See, this is when we can start considering why we think the Arabs are white today. Because when you control the narrative, then that's like you control the minds of the people. You see, you can easily get someone to believe how you want them to believe by force, by putting, some type of pressure on them, like a gun, or you could really put someone in a corner and be like, believe how I believe. But really, for the sake of takia, or for the sake of cunning, slying protection, you would be like, yeah, I believe what you believe to save your life. You don't really believe what he believes. It's like the earliest days of slavery. You think them slaves really believed in Christianity? Like they was being forced to be Christian to save their life. It was like, yeah, Jesus. Then you get to live. But I'm talking about after so much years of conditioning, psychological conditioning, then you just like passing it down generation to generation. So, you know, when they came up in here in the Hijaz, the Ayyubid Caliphate, they coming up in there and re-educating these Arabs, pushing them up out of there and giving them a new education. They reforming the minds of the African man. So we're going to continue. The Mamluk Sultanate, the Ottoman Empire. This is from the 13th century on to the 20th century. We talking about the 12th century all the way up to the 20th century. That's about 800 years. So the black Arabs really didn't rule that long. Just giving you guys some dates. This is see the question for this second segment was, why is not the information that I showed you in the segment of eradicating white supremacy about the Arab depiction not being mainstream to you guys? Why don't you guys know what I showed you in the first segment of my presentation? It's because of this white supremacist takeover of Turkish so-called Muslims in the Holy Lands. And I'm giving you the facts. Now I'm giving you another kingdom right here, the Mamluk Sultanate, a medieval realm spanning Egypt. So they got Egypt, the Levant, and the Hijaz. Those are the same areas that Salahuddin had conquered. It lasted from the overthrow of the Ayyubid dynasty. So they came right after the Ayyubid dynasty until the Ottoman conquest of Egypt in 1517. Contemporary Muslim historians refer to the same divisions as the Turkic and Circassian periods in order to stress the change in the ethnic origins of the majority of Mamluks. We're talking about a European whitening of Islam at this particular period. This is a whitewashing of Islamic education. The Sultanate's ruling class was composed of Mamluks, soldiers of predominantly Kipchaks, Crimeans, Circassians, Abkhazian, Abgurk Turks, and Georgian slave origin. Translation is the white man. It's the white man, the European. Okay. We talking about the ruling class was a whole bunch of Europeans, the kings, the governors, the judges, the scholars of Islam, you name it. They basically took Islam and reconquered all the lands that the black Arabs were in control of. They just basically, that's what they did. And it started in the 12th century with Salahuddin. So now most of the Mamluks in the Ayyubid service were ethnic Kipchak Turks from Central Asia who, upon entering service, were converted to Sunni Islam and taught Arabic. So there goes your proof right there. These Mamluks were soldiers during the time of Salahuddin, and he taught them Islam. They learned Islam. They learned Arabic and all that. These are Europeans who are now speaking Arabic, and they learning the culture and the religion, and then they just basically took the religion and just took over. Now they are the ruling class. Look at this picture. It is white Arabian fake Arab giving a chain to Donald Trump. Is that the true depiction of the Arabians? Hell no. The Mamluk Sultanate Ottoman Empire. We're going to continue to move forward. Now we're in the Ottoman days. We're in the Ottoman period now. The Ottoman Sultan Selim I captured Cairo in January 20th, 1516. See, Cairo I'm telling you, Egypt is the place. Everyone was going for Egypt as their way to, solidify themselves. If you want to be somebody, you got to have Egypt. Everybody was conquering Egypt, right? So on January 25th, the Mamluk Sultanate collapsed. Although not in the same form as under the Sultanate, The Ottoman Empire retained the Mamluks as an Egyptian ruling class, and the Mamluks and the Burji family succeeded in regaining much of their influence, but remained vassals of the Ottomans. So the Ottomans come over and basically take over the areas that the Mamluks was in control of, that was previously in the hands of Salahuddin and the Ayyubid dynasty, and they kept the Mamluks as a ruling class. They were vassals, meaning they were soldiers. They were just taking, they were just second in command, but they were still holding that high ranking position. They all are part of the same bloodline. Although the Mamluk Sultanate was ended by the Ottoman conquest, the Mamluks, as a self-perpetuating, largely Turkish-speaking warrior class, continued to influence politics under Ottoman rule. Between 1688 and 1755, Mamluk Beys, you see that word Bey? Hey, allied with Bedouin and factions within the Ottoman garrison, deposed no fewer than 34 governors. The Mamluk influence remained a force in Egyptian politics until the abrupt end at the hands of Muhammad Ali in 1811. So these Mamluks was, they, even though they were conquered, their kingdom was conquered by the Ottomans, they were still working with the Ottomans in high social class positions. All right, and you see this picture on the right where this fez comes from. These damn white man, this Turkish white man. So when you see these Moors wearing the fez, talking about I'm sovereign, they ain't sovereign. They nothing but vassals, nothing but some damn yesamasters for the Ottoman hierarchy. Putting on the fez doesn't make you sovereign. It just makes you look like a slave. So I'm showing you now this European takeover. The prophet said that they would take over the Arabian Peninsula, these peeled skin, broad face and small. Look at this white man, broad face. Look at him. Look at his cheeks. Look at his cheeks and look at his eyes. Eyes is not too wide, not too big, and his face is like strongward, upward, very broad. And he got peeled skin. That's because he ain't got no melanin. See, the prophecies of Islam they are truthful. You know what I'm saying? If we could really understand things from its historical perspective, then we can see why the prophecies all make sense. But see, these white folks came and literally took over and hijacked the narrative, and they've been giving it back to us as a remix. So the Islam that you guys know, old family of Solar Vision Debate League and the viewers, the way you guys understand Islam, it's been given to you as such a package infected with white supremacy that it's like you don't even know where to stop. So we only stop where these modern day conscious speakers like, Sarah Sutan Seti, he drops a lot of knowledge about the Moors and their connection to the Turks and Islam being a Masonic, faith. But that's only because his education is starting right here in the 12th, 13th century. Because that's what's mainstream. This is mainstream Islam right here. You're getting this white supremacist narrative that Islam came from the Ottomans, it came from the white man, and they basically civilized the world. Salahuddin, the great conqueror of Jerusalem from the Romans, right? This is what we're getting in the mainstream Islam. But I gave you history before the 12th century. I took you guys back. I took you guys further back and gave you the dates and the names and the personalities and the topography and geography of what makes the true depiction of the Arab so evident. So right now, at this point, in this juncture, you should not be misled or doubt who runs Islam today, but who really is the true Arab. After 1354, the Ottomans crossed into Europe, and with the conquest of the Balkans, the Ottoman Beylik was transformed into a transcontinental empire. The Ottomans ended the Byzantine Empire with the 1453 conquest of Constantinople by Muhammad the Conqueror. So you look at the right, you see the Ottoman. Look at their map. Look at how much they got. They got the whole Hijaz. They got Yemen. They got Egypt. They got all of North Africa. They got all of the Levant. They even got parts of Iraq. They got Afghanistan. They up there in Europe, even pushing more westward. They was a mighty white supremacist Islamic so-called dynasty. This is a mighty amount. This is a lot of land, right? It's a lot of jurisdiction right there under their control. And we talking about in a time where all history, all power was in this region. Even though the Native Americans is probably somewhere over there in America, shooting there, they was at no level of civilization and power as these powers of this time. The greatest powers of this time was known to be Axum, the Ethiopians down there, or the descendants of Solomon and Sheba. It was Persia to the right and Roman to the left. When Islam came on the scene, it became a force to be reckoned with. We started to change history. The Muslims, we the ones who changed history within the last 1,000 years. Because before that, it was Rome, it was Egypt, it was Ethiopia, and it was Persia. Everybody else didn't matter. Everybody else really didn't matter in the known world. But when Islam came on the scene, this is we was taking. Look at this. Look at all that color. Not even Kemet was able to take that much land. Not even the children of Israel and all the kings of Israel was able to get that kind of land. That's a lot of jurisdiction. As the Seljuk Sultanate of Rome declined in the 13th century, Anatolia was divided into a patchwork of independent Turkish principles known as the Anatolian Beyliks. You see that word "bey"? It's all Turkish origin. And y'all want to be Moors, or some of y'all want to be Moors, like knowing the history is so divine. One of these beyliks in the region of Bithynia on the frontier of the Byzantine Empire was led by the Turkish tribal leader Osman I, a figure of obscure origins from whom the name Ottoman is derived. So there you go, right? It was all a bunch of after the Mamluk, before the Mamluk became an Ottoman Empire, it was nothing but little small principality, little kingdoms of Turkish tribes, and they ended up becoming a harmonized union, with this Osman the First conquering Anatolia, like literally going further west and conquering more Europeans. And they say he destroyed the Byzantine Empire. Like, he got status, he got juice now amongst the Turkish tribes. He's the one. He got to be the one. He conquered the Byzantines. During the 16th and the 17th centuries, at the height of its power under the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire was a multinational, multilingual empire controlling most of Southeast Europe, parts of Central Europe, Western Asia, parts of Eastern Europe, and the Caucasus, North Africa, and the Horn of Africa. Look at all that. Look at all that power they got. At the beginning of the 17th century, the empire contained 32 provinces and numerous vassal states. Some of these were later absorbed into the Ottoman Empire, while others were granted various types of autonomy during the course of centuries. Now, right here on the right, you can see these color codes, and you see that light green color looking like a highlighter. The light is the brightest of the green over there in Mecca. You see, it was a vassal in an autonomous community. So the Ottomans, they controlled that area, but they put a puppet in power, you know what I'm saying, to keep it, so the people won't think that they're really, being colonized. And you got a whole bunch of African continents, right? Countries right now on the continent. They're being ruled by African leaders, but these African leaders are indirectly being ruled by their colonizers. It's no different than what the Ottomans did right there in Arabia. They just got a little puppet, put him up there, gave him some semi-autonomy, but you still under the lord of the white man. You still under us. So the education, the Islamic dissertation, whatever the propagation that was of the time, if it wasn't what the white man approved, it wasn't Islam. So we got to understand the whitewashing. That's why y'all didn't know the information from the segment of eradicating white supremacy, of the true depiction of the Arab. Because you see, this European been so diligently working for 800 years. They took over the power in the 12th century, and they've been at it ever since. They conquered Arabia. Look at it. The prophet said they would conquer the peninsula. They did it. This is the prophecy. This is history in the making. Like, the prophet speaks the truth. Alhamdulillah. So now we're going to talk about the bloodline of the Sads, because maybe y'all still think those people in Arabia are Arabs. Those white folks, those pale skin looking, broad face. Look at this broad face and small eyed Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Muhammad ibn Saad. Like y'all, if y'all still think that those are the Arabs after everything I presented thus far, then perhaps this will change your mind. Muhammad ibn Saad was a shrewd tribal lord of the neighboring Diyara, Najd, who cared more about power, money, and women, as was the case with most of the feudal lords in medieval times. All this information, I got it on an underground website called beforeitsnews.com. Y'all could check out this website. They drop a lot of information about a lot of history that is not mainstream. Beforeitsnews.com. You heard it from the RGY Under Solar Vision Debate League. Check it out. He gave protection to Ibn Abdul Wahhab on the instruction of the British agents and quickly envisioned the possibilities of forming a state in the Arabian Peninsula based on Wahhabism, the new religious theory preached by Ibn Abdul Wahhab. Now, this Ibn Abdul Wahhab that the Muhammad ibn Saad made basically a protection pact, like an oath, a bayat. He's the one who wrote all the Salafi books that Philadelphia Muslims are high on, strung on, doing the Harlem Shake on for. When you go down to 52nd and Market and you see all the Muslim bookstores, it's because of Ibn Abdul Wahhab's teachings. These are the Wahhabis, Salafis. This is where it comes from, right here. Okay. Now, what's critical is these words. He gave protection to Ibn Abdul Wahhab on the instruction of the British agents. That means this was a Sambo for the white man. He was a white man himself, but he's an agent for the British. And he made a pact with Ibn Abdul Wahhab to teach Wahhabism, aka Salafism, the Islam that's in Philly. That's the Islam that's in DC and Baltimore and LA. That's the Islam that came over here, the Saudi version. All right? He's an agent. Between 1744 to 1927, Sauds fought wars with all Muslim rulers of the Arabian Peninsula and were finally successful in wiping out Islam and Muslims from the Arabian Peninsula in 1927. The man was fighting against the indigenous Muslims. Remember I showed you the slides about those Baghdad Arabs that was making migration to the west, to Chad and Niger and the Sudan and all that in the 15th century. Remember all them empires I told you? Remember the Europeans started coming into the Islamic fold and taking over the regions that were previously populated by black Arabs in the 12th century. And those Baggara Arabs were making migrations in the 15th century. So that means that by the time you in the 17th century with this white man, Muhammad Saad, most of the indigenous Arabs are gone. They out of there. Most of the indigenous Arabs of Arabia are out of there. They've been removed. The whole it's like this. They repopulated the place. They displaced them. The prophet said that the white man, or he said the peeled skin. He said my ummah will be taken over 3 times by people with broad faces and small eyes, and the skin will be peeled until they take over the whole peninsula. So that means that the original Arabs will be displaced because they ain't got no power. So we're looking at a killer, a murderer, an agent who y'all think is an Arab. You think this is an Arab? No, this man is a Turk. Before Muhammad ibn Saad turned that into Saudi Arabia, before that became Saudi Arabia, the Ottomans was ruling that. That's Europeans. They was all up in there making babies, putting their people in there. Come on, the Europeans been ruling the Hijaz since the 12th century. It was the Ayyubid, the Mamluks, and then you got the Ottoman Empire. They're all Europeans, all up in the Hijaz. That's 800 years. They was able to get rid of the indigenous Arabs in that time period. In the year 851 after Hijra, this is the 14th century Common Era, a group of men from Al-Masalik clan a branch of Anza tribe, formed a caravan for buying cereal. Now, this is a story, you guys. This is a story of how you get the bloodline of Muhammad ibn Sa'd. This is his story. This is how it all happened. So we're talking about the 14th century. We're talking about the 1300s now. We know that during this time, the Ayyubid dynasty is in full effect, and the Mamluks is coming right behind them around this time. We know that the Hijaz, the Levant. We know during these times, according to the history and the information, Europeans took over Islam. So now a group of men from the Masalik clan, a branch of the Anzar tribe, these are Arabs, pure black, formed a caravan for buying cereal and other food from Iraq and transporting it back to Najd. A Najd is an area in Arabia, right? So these Muslims, or not Muslims, you just say these Arabs, these black Arabs, were basically traveling to buy some food in Iraq so they can bring it back to Najd, where they from. The head of that group was a man called Sahmi bin Hathlul. The caravan reached Basra, where the members of the groups went to a cereal merchant who was a Jew called Mardache bin Ibrahim bin Moshe. Now, we got to also understand that the so-called Khazarian, Aknazi, Turkish, Mamluk, the Seljuk, these Turkish people also took on the Jewish faith. So they didn't just take on Islam, they also took the Jewish faith and they started to call themselves Jews. So this is the 14th century. This is the time of the Ayyubid dynasty. These are the European Turks reconquesting all of the Arabian territories. So we know by this time the Jews, the fake Jews was already in full effect. They was already in full effect by this period. So this particular fake white Turkish Jew is in Iraq selling cereal, and these Arabs are like, "Yo, I'm trying to get some of this cereal, right?" So during their bargaining with the merchant, the Jew asked him, "Where you from?" They said, "We from the Anza tribe, a clan of Al Masalik." Upon hearing that name, the Jew started to hug so affectionately each of them, saying that he himself was also from the clan of Al Masalik. But he came to reside in Basra, Iraq, in consequence to a family feud between his father and some members of Anza tribe. So you see, this Jew lied and said he was from the same tribe as these Arabs. So, we're talking about the bloodline of Muhammad ibn Sa'd, the Saudi Arabian progenitor. After he recounted to them his fabricated narrative, he ordered his servants to load all of the camels with wheat, dates, and taman, all a remarkable deed so generous that astonished the Masalik men and aroused their pride to find such an affectionate cousin in Iraq the source of sustenance. They believed each word he said, and because he was a rich merchant of the food commodities which they were badly in need, they accepted him, even though he was a Jew concealed under the garb of an Arab from Al Masalik. Again, I got all of this information from beforeitsnews.com. This is a great website for giving you history, information about what's happening in the modern times. This is the first time you're hearing it, Before It News, on the Solarvision Debate League.com. Okay, this is where I'm getting the story from. This is where I'm getting it from. So we're talking about a fake Jew who was a merchant during a time of famine, and these Arabs are coming up there looking for food, and this Jew gives them a whole bunch of free food, and they like, "Oh, should we accept you? You are Anza for real." That Jewish ancestor of the Saudi family was able to establish a guest house called Madafa on the land he usurped from his victims. Now, the reason why I put that there is because the story was very long and I read it. So I'm just going to give you the details, and you can go on that website and you can read the full story yourself. When he ended up furnishing those Arabs with all that food, they allowed him to come to their land. And then he started to propagate a message that was anti-Islamic. It wasn't Islam at all, because he had his own agenda. He wanted to promote this anti-Masonic, Dajjalic, Messiah from the bloodline of, the Israelites. They believe in some divine Messiah who's going to come back and he's going to be from the Jews, right? So he wanted to preach that, and he was trying to incorporate it with Islam, and it wasn't the same narrative that was mainstream at that time. So he was going against a famous sheikh by the name of Salman Abdullah Al Tamimi, and he ended up going against him. And a lot of the people supported the local sheikh, and he ended up making he like got out. He ran out of the Najd. He ran out of Najd and ended up settling in a land called Diyara, where he ended up getting protection from this farmer, and he ended up killing the farmer and taking the guest house. So now I read it again. That Jewish ancestor of the Saudi family was able to establish a guest house called Madafa on the land he usurped from his victims. So he ended up killing the person who gave him refuge when he was running away, because he was causing so much pandemonium in the place where those Arabs who came looking for food in Iraq. He caused so much pandemonium when he got there that he ended up getting pushed out the city. He ran to another place and he killed someone who gave him protection. He ended up making that his base, and he gathered around him a group of hypocrites who started to spread out false propaganda for him that he was a prominent Arab sheikh. So now he's going around talking about he's an Arab and he's a sheikh and he knows Islam. He plotted against Sheikh Salah Salman Abdullah Al Tamimi. This was his opponent, his original enemy, and caused his assassination in the mosque of a town called Al Zalafi. So he assassinated the man. We're looking at the white man, the Khazari, in the 14th century. This is the 1300s. He's up in Arabia, literally doing some Secret Service type, ninja type scholarship, coming up in there, impregnating the indigenous Arabs, trying to give them a new philosophy of, trying to talk about he an Arab sheikh. After that, he felt satisfied and safe to make Al Diyara his permanent home. There he practiced polygamy of a wide scale, and indeed he begot a lot of children who he gave pure Arab names. This is the bloodline of Muhammad ibn Saud. He came from a Khazarian, Ashkenazi, Algirk Turk, but he hid under the Arabic lineage because he bought some hungry Arabs who came to Iraq looking for some food. He bought them. That's what he did. He gave him free food, and he used his merchant, his power, his wealth, because these modern day Rothschild bankers, they all come from the same Jewish tribe, Turkish bloodlines. They were rich. They were very rich, and he used his money to buy these Arabs. And this is how Muhammad ibn Saud got up in Arabia with his little fake narrative. So now, remember when I talked about Abdul ibn Wahhab? He was the scholar that Muhammad ibn Saud made a pact with under the British guidance, right? So the prophet made a prophecy. A person with eyes protruding, with a long beard and head clean shaven, named Zul Hawasara, who was from the tribe of Banu Tamim, came to the prophet and declared, "O Muhammad, fear Allah." Now here's somebody telling Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, to fear Allah, like as if he don't fear Allah the most. You can't even be a prophet of God if you don't fear Allah the most. So the prophet said, if I disobey Allah, who else will obey him? I am obedient to Allah at all times and never disobedient, sent as Alameen. But you don't accept me as an honest man. So Umar, the companion of the prophet, he got all mad, and he asked if he can get rid of him. The prophet said, leave him alone. After the person left, the prophet said, from his progeny will rise a group who will recite the Quran, but it will not go below their throats. They will leave the deen just as an arrow leaves the bowstring. They will kill Muslims, but spare the idolaters. Okay, if I ever confronted these people, I would slaughter them just as the people of Ad were destroyed. All right, there go your references. Miscot, page 535. The prophet is making a prophecy about some future people from the Banu Tamim who will rise. He said there will rise a group. So this rising is of authority, right? Because he says they will recite the Quran, but it will not go below the throats. So when you recite the Quran and you're of a rising position, that means you are probably a scholar, you're probably an authority, a governor, you're somebody important. All right. Because if you're able to influence people, whole communities, you're going to need to be of a rising position, of a authoritative position. So he said they will kill Muslims but spare the idolaters. This is exactly what Muhammad ibn Sa'd did, slaughtering all the indigenous Arabs and giving them that Wahhabist Salafi Philadelphia doctrine that you see all these Negroes in America bumping their head and rocking to. This is the doctrine. This is the doctrine that Muhammad ibn Sa'd went on a slaughtering campaign to do, and the Prophet prophesied it. He said there will be a man from this bloodline, the Banu Tamim. He will recite the Quran. Oh, it will be a group. He will recite the Quran, but it will not go below their throats. Hypocrite Muslims under an Islamic appearance gonna basically rise up, and they're gonna be killing Muslims. Sounds so much like the Wahhabis. Sounds so much like ISIS. It sounds so much like them. I mean, it just sounds like them. Their whole doctrine. All right. This is another hadith. Okay. From Abdullah ibn Umar, that the Prophet once prayed for Syria and Yemen. It is narrated that there were some people of Najd also present in the gathering, and they requested the Prophet to make a supplication for Najd as well. The Prophet continued saying, "O Allah, shower blessings on Syria and Yemen." The people of Najd again requested the Prophet to pray for Najd. The Prophet said, "It is a place of tremor and tribulations, and the horn of Shaitan will rise from there." So here the Prophet is praying for Yemen and Syria. Consequently, if you look today on the news, Yemen and Syria are the most bombed places in the world, the most devastating humanitarian crisis of the world. 10 million people in Yemen right now got no clean water, no food, dying of cholera disease. You're talking about 3 million dead. You're talking about in Syria, you see Syria, what it look like, a big old gravel pit, bombs everywhere. Syria and Yemen are the two places that Prophet prayed for. And Allah is always with the poor, as you heard in the song. Allah is with the poor. Allah is with the oppressed. The most oppressed people today in the world, of course, is the so-called black man in America. I agree. I believe that. But second to that will be Yemen and Syria, no doubt about it. Yemen and Syria are the most devastating places to live right now. And the people were saying, pray for Najd. And he said, that's where the horns of Shaitan will rise. Historically, the horn of Shaitan, or the horn, was used to assemble men for war, right? You hear you hear that horn, and that was to assemble the men for war. So a horn is symbolic for a call, a message. So he's basically saying that's where the doctrine of Shaitan will come. The call of Shaitan will come from Najd. That's where his horns will rise. And war and slaughtering and murder definitely came from Najd. This Abdul ibn Wahhab, we're talking about Abdul ibn Wahhab. That's him on the right. That's him right there on the right. Born in 1703, died in 1792. He was a religious leader and theologian from Najd. The Prophet said the horns of Shaitan will come from Najd. Here is your scholar. Here is your theologian. Here is your sellout. Here is your master, Philadelphia. Here is your king of kings. Your sellout, murderous, treacherous, Sambo, Uncle Tom of a scholar, Abdul ibn Wahhab. This is the founder of the movement now called Wahhabism. The Prophet said the horns of Shaitan will come from Najd. This man is the one who started the movement in the very land the Prophet prayed for. And consequently, ISIS is in Yemen. They're all up in Syria, bombing it up. And it's all in the name of Takfiri Wahhabism, Salafism. So you're looking at, this is the reason why most of you guys see Islam the way you see Islam. This is what you're getting: Europeanism, white supremacy. You're not getting the true Islamic depiction of the Arab. No. We got to bring it to you, RGY and the Solar Vision Debate League. We're going to give it right to you. Just hold on to your seats and don't press that dial. Higher wall. So despite his teachings being rejected and opposed by the many of the most notable Sunni Muslim scholars of the period, including his own father and brother, Ibn Abdul Wahhab chartered a religious political pact with Muhammad ibn Saud to help him establish the Emirate of Diyara, the first Saudi state. Again, here we go. He was rejected by most of the. I don't really get with the Sunni Muslims myself personally, but even the Sunni Muslims wasn't messing with him. That's how messed up his doctrine was. But that dude Muhammad ibn Saud, remember, Muhammad ibn Saud is a descendant of a Jew, of a Khazarian Jew. He was an agent of Britain who made a pact with this lunatic Abdul ibn Wahhab, and they established a political pact. It was politics. It was about money. It was about politics. It was about world. This is around World War I. Like, we talking about real live strategy of conquest. They're using religion for political means, and they got these little puppets playing the role of religious leader. Prophet said they will recite Quran, but it won't go past the throat. This is who you see during Ramadan making the reciting Quran. I don't ever get inspired. I don't know about you guys when you hear the Quran coming from Mecca. It's like I don't get affected by it. They reciting the Quran and I'm not touched by it. My soul don't feel nothing. It's because these are the Banu Tamimi. These are the bloodline of Abdul ibn Wahhab. The Al-Sheikh, Saudi Arabia's leading religious family. Saudi Arabia's leading religious family. We talking about these are the people who control the Kaaba, who translate the Quran into English and give it to us in Philly and write the books. These are the ones who stamp the books. They confirm it. They verify it. They make sure they, observe what it is that you're reading. They control the doctrine. Right? They are the descendants of Ibn Abdul Wahhab and have historically led the ulama in the Saudi state, dominating the state's clerical institutions. So they even influencing the judgments, the government. Ibn Abdul Wahhab's family. This dude on the right here, the founder of the lunatic doctrine Wahhabism / Salafism. This is what they practicing in Philly. It's this man right here, the horns of Satan. The prophet said that his ummah will be taken over 3 times by people with broad faces and the smallest of eyes. We got to know who the true Arab depiction is, y'all. Now we're in the last segment, closure. Let's get some closure now. Let's wind on down. Let's bring it back. Yeah, because Saeed Makti is going to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. As a result of Arabian rule and their fall since the 13th century, Khazarian Akhenazi Jews, along with their allies, colonized former Arabian lands, enslaved and relocated their people, reinstituted a new political and social educational order, and propagated it back to the modern world. This is what happened. This is the facts. The original Arabs were conquered and relocated and given a new political and social educational order from these white Akhenazi, Khazarian, Oghurk, Seljuk Mamluks. The Turks. The prophet prophesied them. It happened. This is what you're getting. These are the Arabs that you guys think are Arabs. True Arabian history been depicted under the guise of Arab culture, but is really white supremacy. True Islam is not mainstream and will not become so until the end of white supremacy. So you see, this narrative that I'm kicking to you guys will never be mainstream until white supremacy is defeated. So I know y'all probably like, I don't know, maybe perhaps believable, considerable, but I tell you what, this narrative will never be mainstream until white supremacy is over. And I know my Israelite brothers know what I mean, because ISUPK and all them Israelite schools are fighting against a narrative against white supremacy. It's even the Khazarian Ashkenazi Jews that are trying to be Arabian, that are trying to be Israelites. So even they got to fight the same fight that I'm fighting over here at the RGY to re-educate about the Arabian history. We got to fight the same fight that they fighting. So the true Islam is never going to be mainstream, just like you're never going to see the true way of Moses until white supremacy is destroyed. So how do we solve the problem? This is the closure period, y'all. This is the segment. We got to heal. We've already been reformed. I've eradicated white supremacy. I've destroyed it. The lie is gone. Let's get some closure. The only way we're going to be able to heal is if we do independent research, learn Arabic, and follow the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, the family of Muhammad. And so as I get ready to close, I'm going to share with you guys some hadith coming from the Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt is the family of Muhammad. I follow, I stay firm. This is just the same way it was with King Solomon and Queen of Sheba, King Menelik, all the way to Haile Selassie. They kept it in the bloodline, and the knowledge that they teach and disseminate amongst their communities is always from the bloodline. This is the same way it is in Islam. It is a bloodline thing. The Ahlul Bayt are the bloodline of Muhammad, and we only follow their teachings, just like it was when King Solomon was inheriting the kingdom of King David. It is a bloodline thing. So Islam is the extension and the continuance of the great glorious history of the children of Abraham. And a so-called African American must know who he is, do some independent research, and know that his cousin Ishmael, who looked like him, is in the same condition, the same bondage as him, and a lot of the Arabs were conquered and brought here in the West. That's a whole other segment, but we're gonna continue. So we're gonna do some hadiths where the Prophet said, "Verily, I'm leaving among you two weighty things: the book of Allah and my progeny, the members of my household, the Ahlul Bayt. If you hold fast to them, you shall never go astray. These two will never separate from each other until they meet me at the pond." You look at the if you look at the bottom, you're looking at all the sources: Ibn Kathir, Nasir ad-Din, Al-Tirmidhi, Muslims, Sahih Muslims. Okay, a lot of you Sunni Muslims or whatever sect you follow. If there's any Muslims in the audience, Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, An-Nasai, Ibn Kathir. These are all very popular Sunni scholars. This is a hadith that is not inauthentic. He's testifying that he's leaving us something. If your mama is going out of town and you staying with your moms, or you staying with some folks, and they leave you some money so you can eat something or you can do something with the money, you're not just going to let it sit there on the counter, are you? You're going to take it and use it. So the Prophet left us something to use. He said the book and the family. He said, if you hold fast to them, you will never go astray. But yet you got Sunni Muslims who don't follow the Ahlul Bayt. You got Sufi Muslims who don't follow the Ahlul Bayt. You got a whole bunch of Nation of Islam don't follow Ahlul Bayt. The Moorish Temple don't follow Ahlul Bayt. The 5% Nation don't follow Ahlul Bayt. So what happens is you got a bunch of Muslim sects teaching their own version of Islam, just like Christianity and every other religion. But if you hold on to the family, you'll never go astray. And ever since I've been holding on to the family, this is how I've been woke about the true Arab depiction. Okay, we're going to turn to some more hadiths. We're almost at the finish line. The Lord says in Surah Al-Mujadila, verse number 18, that a day is coming when Allah shall raise them up all together. They will then swear unto him as they now swear unto you. And they will suppose that they stand on something. Lo, without doubt they lie. So in this verse, Allah is basically telling the Prophet that, there's a day coming where, everyone's going to stand before Allah and they're going to swear that they was down with the Ahlul Bayt, because the Prophet said, I'll leave you two things. I'll leave you two things, the book and my family. If you hold on to them, you'll never go astray. So they're going to swear that they was down with the Ahlul Bayt, but they liars. So now we go to a hadith on the authority of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abu Talib. He is a part of the Ahlul Bayt. He is the first cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. He married his daughter Fatima. All right, so he's a part of the Ahlul Bayt. So what does a member of Ahlul Bayt say? He says, surely I and my Awsiya, his progeny, after me, to the day of judgment will guide and are rightly guided, and are those whom Allah reveals through a lot of verses of Quran to be the closest to him and his prophet. So he's basically testifying to Ali that all of his children are the ones who are going to be rightly guided and who receive revelation from Allah and are the closest to Allah and the prophet. So you be talking about the spiritual order of things when people are on a different level mentally, right? You're dealing with someone who's always talking about sports, but when you talk about God, he can't keep up in a conversation because he's not on that intelligence level. He can't keep up because when you close to Allah, you're on a different spiritual frequency. You know what I'm saying? You can receive in revelation from God. That's a whole different type of connection to the King of Kings. So he said, and he made us pure and infallible and witnesses for his creation, declared us hujah, authority on his earth, made us a treasure of his knowledge, minds of his wisdom, translators of his message, kept us with the Quran and kept the Quran with us. That's pure declaration. Amir al-Mu'mineen saying the Ahlul Bayt, this is who they are, this is who we are. He's declaring it. We are infallible and pure. The Most High gives us revelation. We are the translators of his message. This is the reason why we got to stick with them, because they're going to tell us the truth. He says, we will never separate from it, and it will never separate from us until we reach the heavenly fountain of the Holy Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who said, and this is the one sect out of the 73 that will be saved from hell, discord, misguidance, and doubts. And this surely is from the dwellers of heaven, and these are 70,000 who shall enter heaven without being questioned. So the prophet is testifying through the authority of Ali that there will be 73 sects. There will be 73 different branches of Islam being preached. Wahhabism, Salafism, Philadelphiaism, that stuff ism over there, ism is not one of the sects, ism going to the Jannah-ism. So we're going to have to really take the hadith serious if we really want to find guidance in Islam. The only guidance you're going to get, the Ahmadiyya community with Imam Bashir. I love the brother Bashir for his stance on black power and culture and his reformation of the self. Even my brother got to come over here to the RGY and hear about the Ahlul Bayt news. Okay, we're going to go to Sulaim ibn Qais Hilali, who was one of the companions of the Prophet, who asked Ali, "Oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I heard some commentary of Quran from Abu Dar, Salman, and Miqdad, and some Riyawa. They heard from the Holy Prophet. After that, I heard confirmation of these from you. I've seen a lot of things relating to commentary of Quran and lots of traditions from the Holy Prophet in people's hands, and they are different from what I heard from you. And your people think that they are invalid. Do you think these people intentionally lie about the Holy Prophet and comment on the Quran and their own understanding?" Ali turned towards me and said, "Oh, Sulaim, you asked, so understand the answer." He said, people receive in their hands valid and invalid truth and falsehood. Nasik. He says, Mansuk. He says, Mukam and Mustasabi. He says, Hift and Wahma. And during the time of the Holy Prophet, also people told lies and related to him until he, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, got up in front of them to address them, saying, "Oh people, there are a lot that relate lies against me. So any person who intentionally relates a lie about me should reserve a place in hell for himself." After his death, people lied and related the lie against him, the Holy Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May Allah send blessings upon him and his family. So Ali in this hadith is basically giving some facts, some history lessons, reminding Sulaim about what Sulaim noticed. Sulaim ibn Qais was one of the companions of the Prophet. He saw the Prophet. Okay. But after the Prophet died, he was noticing that there were people relating hadith that were not what he heard from Ali. Remember, the Prophet said, whoever holds on to my family will not be misguided. So right after the Prophet died, there were people who did not hold on to Ahlul Bayt. As a matter of fact, Abu Bakr became the first king of Islam. So this is how you get that Sunni Shiite division, because a lot of people believe that Abu Bakr was the rightly guided caliph, whereas there's another group who don't. They follow Ali. So Sulaim was noticing at the time of Muhammad's death and Ali's existence that there were people narrating hadith that weren't from what they heard from Ali. So he was letting them know the different types of hadiths. He gave the divisions: the nasik, the mansuk, the mukam, the mustasabi, the hift, and the wahma, right? So we got the verses that are invalidated by other verses. These are the nasik. Then you got the mansuk, the invalid verses, the particular and the general, the muktan and the mustasabi, the clear and the unclear, the hif, the memorized, and the wahma, the suspect. These are all things that got to be explained in a type of narrative and a breakdown, so you can understand how the revelations is supposed to be deciphered. And only the Ahlul Bayt can explain it. But a lot of them scholars, so-called scholars, after the Prophet died, was explaining it and giving commentary on the Quran in their own understanding. So this is the reason why the Prophet, he reminded him of the time when there were liars of the time of the Prophet making false hadith about him while he was alive. And the Prophet said, "Oh, people, there are a lot that relate lies against me." This is during the time of the Prophet they was lying. So after he died, they was doing the same thing. So this is why we hold on to the Ahlul Bayt, because the Ahlul Bayt give you the story. A lot of mainstream Muslims don't know this, though. They really take Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi. They look at these hadith books like how people look at the Bible, like as if these books are infallible. But a lot of these scholars who compiled these books were not down with the Ahlul Bayt. And that's a whole Islamic history that could be explained at another time. But as I get ready to close with the last hadith, this is from Ali bin Abu Talib, who said, "I used to go to the Holy Prophet every day, once in the morning and once at night, and he used to see me alone. Wherever he went, I used to go with him." The companions of the Holy Prophet know that he doesn't do that with anyone else except me, and sometimes this used to happen in my house. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to come to me, and when I used to go to him at some place, he used to meet me alone and ask his woman to go there. It was nobody except him and myself. And when he used to come to my house to meet me alone, then neither Fatima nor my children went away. So basically, Ali is testifying to the fact that he was intimate with Muhammad in terms of his relationship. He got knowledge that nobody else got. He was always around the Prophet. He was around him so much that even the companions knew that he didn't do that with anyone else but him. This was his first cousin, Ali. So maybe this is the reason why, there was a whole bunch of discrepancies and a whole bunch of jealousies after the Prophet died, and they didn't want to accept Ali's reign as the first successor or as the rightful successor. Because a lot of the Sunnis believe that Abu Bakr rightfully took the throne with the right Islamic law and the right breakdown. But a lot of Muslims amongst the Shiite believe that they denied Ali of his right. They rejected him, and they intentionally used political, plays, political strategy against him in order to usurp his right. So this hadith is basically just establishing his superiority in knowledge. When you are around somebody more, if you're around somebody a lot, then you'll be able to get to know them. You'll get to learn more about them. You get to understand more about that personality. The more you're around a person, the more you spend time. It's like a mother who can't spend time with her kids because she got to work. The more she is at work, she's not understanding her child, the development and the mood swings and all of the things that the child needs to be nurtured in. A child needs to be nurtured emotionally. But if the mother is not there and the father is not there, who is nurturing your child on how to behave correctly? So it was no different than the Prophet and Ali being close like this. For all your perverted minds thinking some homosexual thoughts in your mind, may this devil get them out of your head immediately, and know that this is the RGY, the rightly guided youth nation who speak the truth and stand up for it. To be able to be that close in proximity to a prophet of God who receives divine revelation is a divine blessing from the Most High. Woe. So Ali was the most closest in terms of proximity to information that none of the companions could ever brag about. And that's why I stick to the Ahlul Bayt. That's why I stick so close to the Ahlul Bayt, and I've never been misguided. Every time I go against a Muslim, they don't know how to really challenge me. I know when I had gotten to that debate with the Moorish Orthodox Moor, we had it was a matter of semantics. It was a matter of understanding what the word hadith means. Hadith meaning speech. Yet the whole debate, we went back and forth trying to establish the semantics of the word. So we talking about being rightly guided to down to the language, down to the aleph, down to the ba and the ta, giving you the truth every day when I can, when I do it. Alhamdulillah. So the reason why I'm at this particular juncture, alhamdulillah, the reason why I'm able to understand Islam at this degree, because like I said, the Islam that I just kicked to you guys is not mainstream. So the reason why I'm here is because of this man on the right, Uthman Dan Fodio. He was a Fulani king of North Nigeria. He actually established an Islamic kingdom in the late 17th century, early 18th century. He fought against the British, but the British destroyed him in 1908. All right. This man was a son of Muhammad, of the Ahlul Bayt. And in his books, these are the traditions that I'm narrating to you. All these traditions that I narrated to you are coming from his books. So what I'm saying is, you read scholars in Islam, but you're not going to get these hadiths that I brought out today. You're not going to get them. Because the way that they packaged it for you guys to receive the information is under some type of ulterior motive to keep you away from the light of this age. So this hadith, Sa'id al-Mahdi will first appear in the end of time from the farthest west, is very, very, very significant. Because only Shaykh Uthman narrated this hadith in his book, Tanbihu Ulama, the signs of the end of time. You see, we're living in the time of a Mahdi, of a reformer, of a reviver, who's going to bring back the light of Islam and teach the truth to the youth to rise them up, and we can do what we got to do. Now, you see, in chapter 7, verse number 168, and I'm going to close with this. Allah talks about scattering the children of Israel. So Allah also says in chapter 43, verse number 56, that he made the story of Egypt a salaf, precedent for the last generation. So if you just look at America, you look at how it was conceived, how it began, you look at the symbology on the back of the dollar bill, you look at the Washington Monument, these are all symbols that mean something deeper, something more esoteric, something more meaningful. Now, to the naked eye, you're just like, oh, it's just the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. Oh, it's just a monument in Washington, D.C. Oh, they just so happen to call Mississippi River the Nile. Oh, they just so happen to have these things like right in your face that it couldn't allude to another Egypt. Oh, people who coming over here as slaves in America. Yeah, perhaps it could be like the Egyptian story. Yeah, see, these are the things that are hitting within the deep books of Shaykh Uthman Dan Fodi, this Fulani saint, this son of Muhammad, this glorious man who taught me what I know, alhamdulillah. This is where I believe a Moses will rise, a Mahdi will come. And so as I get ready to close out, I would like to say thank you guys for taking the time to hear this message. Thank you for understanding and being open to receive the information. Thank you, Solar, for the opportunity to come back and to reconnect with the brothers on the Solar Division Debate League and to drop some Islam. And with that being said, Hayawawi is out. Yeah.
All right. Shout out to the brother for dropping that knowledge. Yeah, man. Definitely was some very powerful information right there. I'm trying to get the brother back in the league. He comes and he drops his information, and I guarantee you, if this was a debate topic, he most likely will have won that debate hands down. Sayyid Al-Mahdi, he needs to, come back into the league and represent for Islam, because you got a lot of suspect Muslims up in the league that's not really representing right, brother.
Word up. Word up.
You know what I'm saying? You got to hold it down.
Yeah.
For the brothers, the Muslim brothers.
Yo, I heard there's a new guy who goes by the name of Fear of Allah. I heard him on one of the shows the other day, man. What's his science like? What's he about? He's Sunni? Is he what is he like? Shiite? Sufi?
I really can't tell you exactly what his science is, because he haven't debated on the platform. He just be in the chat room.
Oh, okay, word. All right.
Yeah, so I don't really know. But yeah, so we looking forward to at least bringing the brother back on so he could break some more information down. But we're going to sign out for now. Once again, shout out to Sayyid Al-Mahdi.
Yeah. Shout out to Suleiman, man. Thank you, brother. Shout out to all the family. Hiya, whoa.
Alright, we'll see you probably in a couple of hours, family. Peace.
Welcome to the sun.
Alright, brother. Stay in contact, brother.